Back with another episode of Circle of Trades. I'm Todd Studer. With us, as always, Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, and Waldstein Plumbing. And you and I, this is not actually the first time we've seen each other this week because we were both at a kind of a tech convention. Is that what it would be that you call it?
Yeah, well, for it's techies for techies, and we're not techie. Well, you're probably more techie than I am. So
I'm not that much. AIM Institute was putting on something called Infotec, and they had speakers. The focus was pretty much talking about AI, and with a hyper focus on ChatGPT. But there was quite a bit of good information that came out of it, and I think that many of us, me included, think that it's capable of actually doing more than it is, but it's not. It's something to speed up some processes, but it's not. It can't create its own ideas.
No, it can't, but it can take ideas and it can read and it can. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and explain because I'm just a dummy that uses a little bit of AI. I mean, listen, I'm not saying duck when I'm typing. Let's call it for what it is. So let's get that out of the way right now. So I know exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, this is not autocorrect for Travis. If it is, we need to have a talk with whoever decided it. But AI is going to be involved, and to go listen to with what Jamie Bush and the team that they put together over there was putting industry to get business and technology together, which I think is a very, I don't say there's a lot of people, lots of conversations, lots of people around the country talking about how does that affect business. I would be misspoken if I didn't say that, it's definitely affecting our business. It's take a look at how we're doing marketing. It's take a look at how we're answering our phones. It's take a look at how our techs are doing stuff in the homes. It's giving us, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I was like, AI sucks. It's the Nebraska football or whatever else. See, I got my Nebraska day in today. There you go. So
we can move on now.
Yeah, we can move on now. So, but it was just, it's something I didn't want anything to do with. But do I love it? No. But is it something necessary for business? I think if you want to grow business, if you want to be able to track business, find out, like I said, we use a program right now called Rilla, and Rilla can listen to my text conversations when they're at customers' homes and businesses. And part of it is making sure, hey, the texts are covering the points that we need to be covering. And we're talking with customers just, hey, we're here doing the maintenance. We're doing this, are we talking about our maintenance program? I mean, there's certain things we want to hit on highlighting stuff. And it can critique, let's say, I hate to say this, but let's say, a technician tells someone a couple times, hey, we've had, XYZ issue. And the customer's like, well, we never said that. Well, you can go back to the AI conversation. Well, he said it like 27 times. I've had that conversation once. That was not a very pleasant conversation. But we do it to make sure our techs are doing their job. That's the primary function. We're looking at it now as a platform for when people call in. Our calls are recorded. I mean, pretty much everything we do is recorded. If you don't think you're not being recorded today, you're an idiot. Sorry. It's just the way life is now. You're on camera, you're on video. But, we're looking at it from a CSR perspective. And so we can go in and listen to the conversation. It's a 3-4 minute, 5-minute conversation in our dispatch software, where AI can go through and kind of summarize it in 1 or 2 sentences for what it's doing. And, so if you got CSRs that, maybe aren't good at scheduling or have an objection they're overcoming when they're talking to customers, it's becoming in marketing, it's becoming, more critical too. I mean, there's creators out there that are just writing AI content for companies to sell to people like me and frankly, people like you. So, I mean, do I, like I said, do I love it? No, but if you don't embrace it, the way the world is and the way it's going, you're going to fall behind. And, the other thing is important to know people that you can trust to do it, hold them accountable for what they're doing. But in 2025, and I think going forward, it's going to revolutionize a lot of businesses. I think there's going to be businesses to where that may disappear as AI technology gets better. It's not there yet, but you give it 5 years, what's it going to look like?
Yeah, it's well, who knew 5 years ago that we would have access to something like this now? And you're exactly right. I mean, you don't have to like it, but you do have to accept it, and you do have to say, okay, this does now exist, and the companies that are using it are going to get an advantage over anybody that's not. And that applies to a lot of different areas of technology. You think back into the 90s before the internet was widespread at all. And when it first came out, remember Prodigy?
Oh
That was
God, yeah.
that first, if you wanted to get onto the internet, you were essentially paying for a long distance phone call on a landline. And there wasn't that many different places to go.
No.
And that's what Prodigy was all about. And that doesn't even exist anymore.
No.
So, and everyone was, well, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to have a website? Why would I want to take away the one-on-one conversation and the personal conversation that we can have with people and just do it online? Well, for those that fought it, they fell behind. And this, I believe, is the next step. And I don't think it's the last step. You just said, what is it going to be in 5 years? I don't know. Yeah. But if you're not on the path, you're going to be 5 years behind.
Well, and that's just it. And then trying to get caught up, I mean, it's whether I like it, I was touching every part of it. Of course, air serves a franchise. The plumbing side is not a franchise, but either way, on the marketing side is touching it. If you go, we use Google for a lot of our, for our chats, for our emails. I'm not a Microsoft fan. Sorry, Microsoft people, but sorry, you can blame my son Harley for that. But but Google and Yahoo and every other link that's out there, they're wanting you to get into their chat platform because the thing that scares me is that it takes away the thinking function. As far in my thought, in some avenues, it has that potential. I was at the Infotec. I was talking to an advanced scholars employee that was there. They're looking to see how they can implement with high schools here in Council Bluffs and Southwest Iowa. And we were talking about how is this going to affect classroom? We kind of got an oxymoron. We have a governor who just said you can't have cell phones in the classroom, which I think is a laugh, number one. But good luck enforcing it. But then the flip side of it, you look at where AI is getting integrated in everything. So, okay, so you're going to take away the primary tool that might be your function or might be your primary tool piece eventually because you're worried about cell phones in the classroom. So, are we going back to the Stone Ages? We're going to go back to buying textbooks. Textbooks cost money. Colleges don't even want to provide. I've got a guy right now that's going to college for accounting at a community college in Council Bluffs, Iowa, that doesn't have a live teacher for an accounting class. You want to get me going on something? Get me going on something. How are you supposed to have an accounting teacher? How are you supposed to teach learn an accounting class where you don't have an instructor that says just read the book and do the test? Tell me how that works. I can tell you what my opinion is of it, but that's going off the rails. But that's where technology good. That's where IT is going. That's where AI, I think, can go. So you're going to have to try to manage it for your individual business or your situation. But if you're not embracing it, it's going to be a problem.
And I think that was a big key as to what was talked about on Monday. And because I talked to several different people, and one of them, such as with ChatGPT, was explaining to me that I just used the free version. And he said, no, you got to give them the $20 a month because it's it ramps it up so much higher. I personally have used it and was surprised to how much it knew about me. And I wanted it to write something for me, and it was as close to ready to go that I've ever experienced with it. And that's because over time it just continues to learn and gathers more data, but it's still not creating something from nothing. It's taking existing data and compiling that in a fast and speedy way. But where is it going? I don't know. I don't know what ultimately it can be, but it's like with anything else that if you, in your business, if you hadn't learned some things 20 years ago with HVAC, you have stacked that knowledge into what it is now. But you had to have that base.
It used to be back in, in the 90s, early 2000s, we did a lot of commercial residential, and there was certain equipment we worked on. I'd have to have the train factory manual that was 3 inches thick, and I'd maybe have to carry a Linux manual or a carrier manual, depending on what it was, chill or whatever else, because you needed to know certain information, right? And so it was, and I mean, that's what happened at that time. Well, now you go out, I mean, there's YouTube. Everybody likes to go out on YouTube, number one. But then number two, the other side of it is if you need to look up a problem, there's all kind of, I mean, we sell Rude. We're a Rude dealer. Rude's got resources. Every manufacturer's got resources or points of contact, and so, with the internet and, I think your AI is going to, it's not going to replace a service technician, but I think what it's going to be able to do is, let's say you're a dealer for, let's say Rude that we sell whatever. If you're a factory authorized dealer, hey, you're going to have access to an AI platform. You'll be able to talk to the kind of explain what's going on. And it's going to have 2 or 3 suggestions that experts or other people have ran into to solve that problem. I think that's one, that's an area where you'll see a lot of change. I don't think you'll be able to self-troubleshoot, but you never know. One of the things I've heard is they think that the CSR industry, people of answering phones, might go away. I've got a friend of mine I went to high school with. Her name is Marianne O'Brien. She runs OBI Creative over in Omaha and marketing. And we had to talk about it one day. And it's kind of funny. And 2 days later, she had about a 20-minute piece out there about where she talked about that the industry is going to be directly affected by AI and the jobs it's going to replace. Of course, everybody goes, oh my God, we're replacing jobs. But it just means that somebody else is going to be doing something else besides maybe a CSR, that have been around for 100 years, but it's got to get to that point first. But where there's a will, there's a way. And if there's enough money, if people got enough time, they'll do it. So, but I will say this, Jamie and Bush and her team over there at AIM, put on a great event, the Illuminarium, I've never been to, drove by it. Fantastic facility. It's better than Rick's Boatyard or whatever was there before. So I have to admit it's a lot nice. It's a lot cleaner smelling. It's a lot nicer facility. And so, I mean, I think they did a great job as far as putting on the presentation, and it was an all day deal. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay all day, but I was glad we made the time and helped support that. So I look forward to doing more stuff with it in the future. So
yeah, you should get into the Luminarium sometime when they have all the exhibits set up, because they've taken them all out of the bottom floor.
So is that what the deal is? Okay.
Everything was cleared out. There was a few things that were still there that were more permanent displays, but and it's really designed for interactive for kids, and was still having enough interest for adults too. But so if you go during regular business hours, you'll probably be high energy young people running around. Mm-hmm. But still, it's a phenomenal facility.
Oh yeah,
and, I was impressed by how well they put the event together inside of what that was, because there was so much that had to be moved out of the way. And I thought it flowed very well. I thought that, that moving from one place to another, it didn't really feel crowded in there. Yeah. And it could have. So I think they did a great job.
They kept wanting to move me towards the front, but I'm like, listen, I got a nice, soft, comfy chair, and you got these hard of rock other chairs. I said, why am I going to move? Well, you can hear better. I said, you know what? My butt appreciates a nice, soft chair. So. Yeah,
I'm not listening as well if I'm more uncomfortable. Yeah, no, that makes sense. But it's, I think it was a great informational day, and then we can just kind of take that, and some of it was just confirmation for what I already knew, but that's also important. To know that kind of thing. And I made some new connections there too. So got to interview some great people. And that was, it was a really strong day for me. And I somehow managed to keep from exposing myself as a new village idiot while I was emceeing the trivia contest.
Well, we know you're the village idiot. I mean, I appreciate it. I'm the other village idiot, so it's all good. So,
so with everything that's going on, and we're into, as we're recording this, we actually have some pretty warm weather coming up. I'm assuming that's going to expose some air conditioner problems.
Well, yes, it will expose. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry right now. and I've talked about this a little before. They're like, oh, boring. This is air conditioning, whatever. But I got a phone call this morning. There's certain companies, not ours. Just so you know, we're going through another refrigerant change in the industry. So back in the from the 80s when I was growing up till 2005, 2010, we used mainly R22 refrigerant. Well, the government finally said in 2010 you can't produce anymore, and the government does government things, and they just tax the hell out of it, so it doesn't make it worth a hoot. Now you can still get R22, but it'd be cheaper to go buy a gold brick, at Leavenworth or Fort Knox than it is to go buy it at your supply house or pay for it through us. But you can get it. I mean, there's companies that say you can. Yes, you can, but it's just very expensive. We've used for the last 20 years a refrigerant called R410A, or as Carrier used to say it, Puron, Puron, Moron, Puron. I mean, they're about the same. I don't know, but that was their brand name for it. And that has now, they've made the manufacturers change to a earth-friendly refrigerant. I mean, they haven't gone to propane yet, but the propane was a discussion they were going to have. But the new refrigerants now have with explosive content, now not a fire content. They're not going to burn your house down. But if you get this temperature Freon up to 1,000 degrees and you expose it to a flame, it could, quote unquote, explode. And so, yeah, listen, you get anything hot enough, you can make something explode, whether it's pressure or whatever it is. But there's a context but that's where they're going with the refrigerants. And there's two refrigerants, R454 and R32 is what they're running into. R32 has been used around the world. R54 has been used quite a bit as well. But a lot of manufacturers are just starting to phase this into production as far as units coming out. Which is an interesting time, because do you buy 410? Do you buy a 454? Do you buy the 32? It depends on your manufacturer, but then availability of that refrigerant. And that's been a little bit of a challenge here this year, because the government and one manufacturer in their infinite wisdom that doesn't want me to do business with them decided to go up and buy all the Freon tanks or the refrigerant tanks that hold this explosive refrigerant, thinking they can get a market edge. And one thing I can tell you is, if you're going to try to pull that one, I mean, there's probably a very good chance I'm not going to do business with you. It's just my perspective, So that's Travis's opinion, but it's an interesting time for the industry. It's like anything else, pricing's going up, and then you add the tariffs to it. It's a strange time. There's people still building here. But the interest rates are still there. Of course, all the tariff stuff, we're all, it's just, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And so people are trying to figure out how to budget all this stuff. And frankly, if you can figure it out, maybe you need to go run the U.S. Treasury, because I don't think anybody at the Treasury's got figured out how to work all this stuff. But so back to my point, a lot of stuff going on in the industry, a lot of stuff, if you want to dig into the weeds, simply put, it's like everything else, there's change. You want to be as informed and have the informed decision that you can as a consumer. And change is always scary, but inevitably you have to. So adjust it, whether you talk to us or you have another contractor you're doing business with here down, and there's reputable contractors. We're not the only ones. I hope you call us, but that will hopefully explain, the difference if you want to know and get into it and help you make an informed decision. If you look at replacement, or if you look at repairing, you're wondering why, well, I got a Freon unit. It's cost me $2,000 to add refrigerant to. Yeah. Well, my cost for it at the supply house has gone up like 7 times what it was 3 years ago. So, I mean, you do the math. So
is there a compatibility issue with units that are already out there with this new product? I mean, is it anything that's going to be a problem for a 15-year-old air conditioner?
It depends on the refrigerant that's in it. If it's a 410A system, there's no problem. We've got plenty of 410A. If it's R22, there's some what we call drop-ins, but that's the thing. You start becoming, for those of you who don't know, most HVAC contractors might have 1 or 2 refrigerant tanks for refrigerant styles in their truck for most manufacturers because they want to use the same thing. If you work for like a commercial refrigeration company, so you work on ice machines, walk-in coolers, that kind of stuff, you could have one of 14 different manufacturers and Freons that are available. What's happened is now they're kind of forcing HVAC technicians that are in a home to be refrigerant technicians. And it's kind of like, well, what's the flavor of the day? You know, what flavored Freon did we put into this air conditioner or this AC? And, you know, and if it's not marked, then you have to guess, you know, and there's ways to do it, but it sometimes, you know, two refrigerants can act very similar. And if you put the wrong one in, it can create a lot of problems. So, unfortunately, government trying to improve efficiency and relate to protocols is doing nothing but stirring chaos in the industry. It's no different than, you know, the federal government saying you should only have 1 gallon per flush toilets. Guess what? Created an entire industry called drain cleaning. And, you know, because I hate to say it, you ain't got enough water to wash certain things down. You know, you got to have people that take care of the problem. You know, that's government, that's business, you know.
Yeah,
but
it's
you know,
mostly, okay, we're trying to solve a problem, so we're going to create 3 while we solve the one.
Exactly. So, exactly. So,
but for anyone who, you know, from Homeland Security who may be listening to this, you know, we're all for you. We're all aboard.
Yeah, we're all in this together, like Red Green used to say. So, yeah, there you go. But But no, it's an exciting time. You know, I mean, there was a little city council meeting this week. They got Celebrate CB this week. I think we're doing. I got to go down and pay my bill to get in the parade because I don't do PayPal, but I got to go down and pay to. So I think we're going to be in the parade on Saturday. So
that'll be fun. Well, and actually, you know, folks will see your face, and if you see this episode after the 10th of May, you can go back and watch the parade. Anytime, because it's going to exist. It's not like it can only be seen live, but you know, our good buddy Travis here is going to be welcoming everyone to the broadcast or webcast, if you will, and then you're going to be in the parade. So that'll be a lot of fun.
I'm going to premise I will not be walking in the parade. Let's clarify that. I will be riding in the parade. So just in case you're wondering if I'm going to get my 5 miles in on steps at the parade, that's probably not going to happen.
Well, keep in mind, too, that if you're wanting to give away candy, they frown on you throwing it from your vehicle. You can walk along the sides and give it. So if you have staff that wants to do that, yes, you're welcome to do that. But they don't like you throwing candy from the.
That's a suggestion, right? I mean, I'm not very good at following rules. Watch me get kicked out of the parade. Hey,
it's a safety issue. They don't want kids running out into the street. And that makes sense.
Well, you know, fun. I mean, come on. As long as
I do remember. Yeah, it used to be a thing back. You know, when you and I were kids, and you know, we'd go out to. I'm sure that you were at the St. Patrick's Day parade in Emmitsburg more than once when we were young. Freezing our tails off because it was always so dang cold that weekend. And that was our first chance to start getting candy again. And it was usually cold enough that the Tootsie Rolls were rock hard. And break a tooth.
Yeah. Well, I gave away the Snickers bars because who the hell wants to eat a Snickers bar? Snickers are horrible, by the way. So, give me a Three Musketeers. Give me a Three Musketeers or Milky Way. I cannot stand Snickers. They really want a Snickers. I said, well, and I mean it's better than eating mushrooms, but I would rather have neither. So
that's so you're more of a Three Musketeers man, is that?
Three Musketeers or Milky Way. Yeah, that whole Snickers is like yuck. So it's kind of like going to Disney World in my book. You know, Disney World's not high on my list of places I want to go.
Yeah, mine was always 100 grand bars.
Oh yeah, those are all right.
Which I think back when we were young, I think they actually called them the $100,000 bar. But they found out they could save on printing costs if they just called it 100 grand.
Well, they probably saved 100 grand in printing costs, so they changed it anyway. Hey, look at this one. Some genius come up with this. So,
no, exactly. And the parade's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be, like I said, doing a live webcast. So, this is our first attempt at such a thing. partnering with Kyle Ranney from Tail Slate Agency. I mean, you're familiar with Kyle, and he does great work. And I'm actually, once you and I are done, Kyle and I are going to go have lunch and talk about everything that we're doing with this. Crossing our fingers. Thanks, obviously, to you for being so supportive with this. Thanks to American PCS for they're giving us the internet feed.
Really, Dave is? Holy cow, he's splurging. There you go.
So big thank
I like
you
Dave.
to
He's a
them.
good guy.
And we've got a ton of other local sponsors too that are helping out with this that just want to be part of a community event. And that's the idea behind what we're doing here is we're showcasing Council Bluffs. It's as we're not at summer yet, but I did see they turned the fountain on in Venus Park.
So has anybody dumped a soap in it yet? Or?
Oh my! I hope not. Don't give anybody any ideas. Stop that. But
I don't need to give them ideas. Come on, let's get some different colored soap in there. Oh, I'm not supposed to be encouraging that. So.
No, don't do that. But and there's going to be tons of activities going on in the park, and there's stuff going on all week. So to celebrate CB week, and it's just as I said, a chance to put our best foot forward. I know they had the cleanup day. I think it was just yesterday.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot. I saw a lot of people. They were picking up along they're picking on the road. I was like, what? Did they let the inmates out of clean? I'm like, oh, it's Celebrate CB. It's actually businesses out picking the road. I'm like, oh.
I've seen volunteers going into some of the parks, and they're down like picking up tiny little scraps and cleaning everything up. I've seen that happen before. I think just a theory. I think we got a lot of stuff falling out of trash trucks when they're going around and picking stuff up. That's where a lot of this comes from.
No. Yeah, that never happens. I don't know what you're talking about. So.
I don't think that there's all that many people that are, throwing fast food bags out the windows anymore. Like, when we were kids, it was just chuck it out the window. That, that's that it was pretty normal to do back then. Now it would just be.
Oh yeah, my wife would talk to me for 2 days. Are you kidding me? If I throw a pop can, and my son throws pop cans in the garbage can, I come home and my wife goes postal on me because my son throws. It's like it all goes the same place anyway, Dad. Unless you're in Nebraska, and you got to take in 500 cans to get 50 cents or whatever it is. So. And we do a lot of scrap metal. We do a lot of recycling. But tin cans are not my favorite to deal with. So
back before they did the redemption, it used to be, you'd have to smash them all and get them all condensed to be able to take in for recycling, and it really wasn't. It's a fraction of a penny back then. Is how much you get per can, and I don't know. That was the idea, I think, behind the redemption. So you pay 5 cents a can when you buy it. And then you get the 5 cents back and you take it to a redemption center. But it's.
I used to do that in high school. That sucked. I mean, never fear. You'd have the guy that left a little bit in every freaking beer can, and of course it's dumped in a plastic sack. And of course you got to count all these things, and you're flinging beer all over the place that's like weeks old. It's like, really, but yeah.
Well, you and I were fairly close to the same age. I mean, you graduated a little bit later than I did, but I think you still would have been. So
I graduated in 91.
Did you have any friends, or did you do it that were doing animal pelts back then?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So I had a friend of mine, he lives in Arizona now, but we'd be out, he was 17 and I was 16, and we'd come across some roadkill or something in the wintertime, which, by the way, it froze right away after it was hit by a car, and he's throwing it in his trunk to go take it down to the guy to sell it. If it was sell raccoons, muskrat was big. You'd get like $4 or $5 for a muskrat pelt, and that was a big thing back then.
We had trappers that came out to our farm, and they trapped my grandfather used to love doing it. I mean, when we do deer and stuff, my son likes to keep the. Actually, he did one 2 years ago. He actually made a kind of a jacket. He wears down in Arizona. It's like interesting. So, but yeah, I mean, there's still a business for it. It isn't like it used to be. Back even 30, 40 years ago, but there is, some people want the real people, and then there's, animal lovers that think it's just the worst thing ever. And it's like, well, it's, I can't control what other people do, but yeah.
Do you ever go into one of those places that buys them?
Oh yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I stepped into one of those with my friend, and it was like I was suddenly on the set of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hey, I had a friend that owned a taxidermy business outside of Spencer growing up. His parents ran taxidermy, and they used to have people come through College of Taxidermy. I mean, we did pheasant my sophomore junior year high school. I brought in like 15 pheasants to be taxidermy, and of course, the one somehow my head didn't get turned inside out, so I had this great looking pheasant with a head that looked like it basically exploded on it. But yeah, that was not a happy moment. So,
holy cow, that's an unsettling image.
Mm-hmm.
This was life growing up in Northwest Iowa.
Yes, it
because
definitely
there wasn't anything to do in the wintertime. No. What was there to do around there?
Yeah, there wasn't anything to do. You didn't have your phone, so you actually had to call and talk to somebody. You had to go hang out either in the Hy-Vee or the Smooth parking lot, or they don't want kids. They don't want you cruising down the street because, oh my God, you might congest traffic. So you go sit down at the school or go sit somewhere else while you're loitering. You're creating problems. It's like then we wonder why they went and had keggers at like Dead Horse Canyon or other places, because I mean, what do you do in high school? I mean, sit around and twiddle your thumbs. I mean, that's not my idea of a good time. So
there wasn't anything to do. Now, you growing up close to in Spencer there, there was a theater there.
Yeah,
I saw Rocky IV at the theater in Spencer.
Yeah. I don't know. I watch Star Wars, which I'm not a fan of. My cousin Steve would tell you he's a huge Star Wars guy. I feel the same way about Disney World as I feel about Star Wars, and I've been told I'm a terrible human being for it. I don't know.
You're not alone. Not everybody likes it, but
I can't. I don't know. Unless it's Bugs Bunny or Roadrunner or something like that, I just can't get into. Just wasn't a Disney guy. Wasn't a Star Wars guy.
You were Hanna-Barbera.
There you go. Yep, that's it. So, yeah.
Man.
Barney Rubble and Fred Flintstone are my, couple of my guys. So, there you go.
George Jetson.
So, so anyway, so what time's the parade starting on Saturdays? What, 10 o'clock, 10:30?
Yeah, 10:30. 10:30. Our webcast, if this gets out before Saturday, because we've got a few days, then our webcast starts at 10. And then the parade starts at 10:30.
Is there going to be anybody that's got turkey leg on a stick? I haven't had a turkey leg on a stick. Last year they didn't have it at Kinnick. So I'm in the mood for turkey. It is coming back this year, by the way. I found that out here a week or so ago. But, if someone has a good turkey leg on a stick, I'm game. Oh, hey, don't forget the other thing is, which might be late if depending on it's in, but Friday they got the Chamber Ag Cookout there at Bayless Park.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, everybody forgets about that. But you better get there early if you want the steak sandwich, because if you show up at noon, forget it. It's gone. Everybody's bought out the steak. It's like, come on, you get the burgers or whatever else it is. And yeah, but that's going on. That's always a good time to stop and do that. So
yeah, I think the Pancake Man's going to be down there Saturday morning, and lots of activities for kids. I think there's some kind of BMX bike thing going on in the park.
There is that bike shop. Was the Extreme Wheels down there? I think.
Yeah.
Did they do something with them? Yeah. So no, I know they got they've had new owners for a couple of years now, but I know being down that area, that's pretty good. So. But anyway, by the way, I am taking CDL. I'm taking my CDL right now. So if you see me in an Iowa Western truck drive around the semi, my thought is get 2 lanes over. I mean, I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm actually going to try to get the instructor on next week, or actually after I pass the test. I'm going to try to get him on after I pass, because I don't want to feel like I'm playing favorites in this whole deal. But actually, been a whole lot of fun. So drove trucks some when I was younger. But had no reason in my CDL. We're doing it now for some of the plumbing stuff, and absolute blast. I can't tell you how much fun I'm having with it.
Well, I'm sure it already says student driver on the back, but we need to get one that just says Travis on board, so people really know.
Well, actually, what they did is they covered up the ENT so it says stud driver. So
yeah. And an old boss of mine, still a good friend of mine. He used to say, "Yep, you can't spell Studer without stud."
That's
and
right.
I said, "Yeah, I know, and you also can't spell Studer without dirt."
How do I have you in my phone? Never mind. I won't.
Yeah. It's the same that my grandfather used to say something similar. So
there
anyway.
you go. So, equal opportunity offender, you got to appreciate that.
That's what it is. All right, my man. Grateful as always. And
right.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.